Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about G.I. Joe Operation Blackout. G.I. Joe was kind of before my time. I know that they still renew it for new TV shows every once in a while, but I don't know anything about G.I. Joe. Well, that's not true. The only things that I know about G.I. Joe are references of it from other TV shows. There are two in particular that come to mind, and both are from the TV show Family Guy. And the first one is where this army guy comes in and he's just like, knowing is half the battle. So I know that they kind of have these lessons for the youth, for the young boys, I guess. And then the other one is where Cobra is like, you have to censor television, you fools. And then he flies away in his little chair thing with the jetpack. That is all I know about G.I. Joe. And to reinforce that fact, I thought G.I. Joe was a actual character, not the name of an army organization. So that just goes to show I didn't know about this series. But now I feel like I am comfortable. I know a little bit more about it. I do know that they have a new movie coming out, The Snake Eyes. I think it is actually already out at the time of me recording this even. So maybe I'll go see it now that I played the game. So this game is a third-person shooter. The camera view is very similar to Fortnite, if you ever played that. I think it's meant for two people to be playing co-op. At least every time that I was doing a mission, I was partnered up with an AI companion, so I did have the option to play with a second player, I would imagine. It is mission-based. I think there are 17 missions total, and it just has you choose between one of the characters. Each character has their own stats and stuff like that, but usually most of the time there's only two characters for you to choose from. They all have their own different starting weapons and their own gear. Sometimes they have their different abilities. And then they also have a super special power-up ability that is on cooldown that when you are doing action like damaging enemies, that meter will fill up. And then each character has their own special ability as well. So like one is, if you're playing Snake Eyes, for instance, he'll do this sword slash to enemies all around him and it does a ton of damage. Another one, it's a girl that I really enjoyed playing with. She had this like futuristic crossbow and it just made her crossbow shots do more damage. So that's another thing that I didn't know about G.I. Joe. I just assumed that it was very army hoorah kind of you use traditional, like, I don't know, like AR rifles and that kind of stuff. But this G.I. Joe that I'm playing, all the characters are using very futuristic weapons like electric laser beams and futuristic crossbows and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe it was always that way where they were using very, very advanced technology, or maybe it just evolved that way over time to keep the interest of the audience. The reload system is similar to Gears of War, where if you hit the reload button, you have this little slider, and if you hit the reload button at a certain point, it will reload a lot quicker, and I think it does help fill up your ultimate move bar as well. The health system is similar to something like Halo, where you have your shield, which will regenerate automatically, and then you have your health. As you go along, you can pick up ammo, you can pick up health packs. Your shield will recharge automatically if you don't get hit, but you can also pick up different weapons on the ground too. Not the enemy weapon, but they're like strategically placed across the map area that you come across. Your partner won't pick up any of this stuff. I just feel like your partner doesn't help out much in any regard at all. If anything, they just get in the way and you can't move through them, so you just kind of have to like walk around them if they're just standing in front of your pathway, which can happen quite a lot actually. I'd almost prefer if I just had the ability to play without him at all. They do a couple different things, sometimes to mix it up. I think there's 3 missions where you are driving around in this tank, but for the most part you will be playing that third-person view as a singular person. They do a lot of the times they do this thing where like you have to wait for a bomb to set off, or you have to hack into a computer and there will be this time countdown. Enemies will be approaching you and you have to like defend this area. Sometimes you like set up turrets to help you fight, but it doesn't have a lot in terms of variety. The missions themselves even repeat certain locations sometimes, like you'll be going to this Arctic area as the good guys, as G.I. Joe, and then you'll be playing in that same Arctic area as Cobra. So it just kind of like feels very, very samey. I want to say there's only maybe like 10 different locations, and each of the missions vary between 10 to 20 minutes, so they're not that long. It's really not that long of a game itself. I think it took me around 5 hours. You could probably play this over the course of 1 or 2 days. As far as the single player goes, I believe there is a multiplayer mode, which would make sense, and I imagine it would be kind of like choose your character just by your weapon style and whose ultimate you like the best. But I didn't touch any of that. I just did strictly campaign single player. I mean, it controls and feels all right as far as third-person shooters go. I didn't really have too much of an issue controlling my character. The only thing that gave me really a lot of trouble was the aiming system, because one, I'm really bad at aiming, especially using a traditional 2 analog stick controller. I much prefer keyboard and a mouse in this aspect. But 2, there's auto aim, but I feel like the auto aim system itself was very weird, where it would only work briefly after you are aiming down the scope. It won't aim just blind shooting from the hip. And once you're aiming down the scope for longer than like 4 seconds, I just felt like the auto aim itself just completely turned off, and I was on my own, so I would miss quite a lot. Most of the time I just kind of formed this habit of resorting to aiming down the scope, hurrying and shooting at an enemy, and then getting out of aiming down the scope and just firing from the hip for a second, and then aiming down the scope when a new enemy appeared, and it just repeating over and over again. So I was zooming in and out a lot. The story's okay, I guess. I mean, I guess I was kind of interested in what was going on, but as far as cinematics go, there's not really any. It's just still images that are moving. Like, everything's just so static. Like, the static characters are moving across this static background, kind of like I don't know, more of a visual comic book, if you will. But basically the story is Cobra, he sets off this like this giant amp bomb, essentially, that just makes it so all electronics throughout the world do not work except for his own electronics, which basically makes him like the world supreme leader, because he has access to electricity and power and nobody else does. And then his plan evolves from there. Basically, he is trying to recreate this ancient bell, and when it's rung, it makes people lose control of their mind, and so he can control the humans. I don't know if all G.I. Joe plots are like this, but it was a little wacky, a little out there. I have to ask, though, do the bad guys know that they're bad guys? I think in this universe they do. I mean, just judging by the way Cobra talks, I think it's so I think it's so funny the way he talks with like that lisp, so then he sounds like a snake. But I just can't take Cobra seriously. I just can't believe that any of his employees would think that they are doing it for the better good. They're probably doing it for the paycheck, I would imagine. Whoever thought the war cry "Yo Joe" was a good idea, though. I did encounter one game-breaking bug where I fell through the ground and I wasn't able to continue after that game over because it counted me as dying, so I had to reboot the game. But other than that, I didn't have any issues. That being said, I only played this game for about 5 hours, so overall, it controlled all right, and it didn't overstay its welcome. I think I will give this game a 3 out of 5. Like all games, I'm sure that it would be better playing with a partner, like 2-player. That could be kind of fun, like a fun night, just knock it all out at once. But it's not something that I would recommend paying full price at. I think the market sale retail price for this game would be, I think it's $40. I picked it up for $8, and $10 and under is the price mark where I would recommend it personally. Well, guys, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about G.I. Joe, Operation Blackout, or G.I. Joe in general. Did you grow up with G.I. Joe? What's your opinion about all the characters? I'd love to hear what you have to say. I'll talk to you later. Bye!